everybody. Welcome to our latest episode of the Blind Spot Project. And this is our 7th episode, which is very fun. And today we are talking about two pretty popular movies that at least one or both of us have blind spotted. And it is Deadpool and Blade. So we're diving into the world of superheroes. Please don't hate us in the comment section. Because guys, people get really upset about superhero movies.
One of them. It's okay. It's okay.
But I'm Focus Reese Wagner, and Manda is here.
Hi, it's good to be back. I'm so excited for this one.
Yeah, this one we're definitely looking forward to. You know, it's interesting because some of these blind spots are blind spots because I haven't seen them, and others are blind spots because I chose not to see them, and now I'm finally saying, okay, I gotta do it. And that latter is definitely the case with Deadpool. I pretty much see everything that is all the major releases I pretty much see these days. And so, but back when Deadpool came out, that wasn't the case. I wasn't a professional critic, and so I didn't have to see it. And then I saw Once Upon a Deadpool, and I really disliked it.
Oh, I thought it was going to be something else.
No, I really disliked it. And I have not seen the full Deadpool 2, the unedited version, but I really didn't enjoy it. So I just thought, I don't think this is for me. And why ruffle feathers unless you have to? So I specifically did not watch Deadpool. But I knew that this Deadpool and Wolverine was coming out, and I knew that I would be expected to see it and give my thoughts. So I was like, okay, I'm going to make it the July pick. And I was so glad that you decided to join me this year, because it's great to have someone to talk about it with. Plus, since you are a super fan, would you say you're a Deadpool super fan?
Yes.
You got the popcorn bucket.
How can I not get this popcorn bucket? It's not like Doom level popcorn bucket, but it was like my favorite thing. I think for me with Deadpool, a lot of it has to deal with how they mishandled the character in the Wolverine Origins film.
Yeah.
And so when Ryan Reynolds wanted to do Deadpool, it was like 10 years in development. And when it finally came out, it was like his baby. And I think a lot of it comes with how much you like Ryan Reynolds as an actor. And I think a lot of people are turned off by him because he's like one note. He plays the same person, same character 24/7. I love him for that. I will watch him in anything because I genuinely adore him as a person. So when Deadpool did come out, I love the comic books. I love him with Spider-Man, which hopefully that ends up happening in Deadpool Wolverine. But it's the fact that his character is so different and unique from other superheroes that's what I really loved about him. So when that movie came out and hit the billy, and it was I think it hit $1 billion.
So you think Spider-Man will be in Deadpool and Wolverine?
Most likely.
Oh.
Or someone, there already was a kind of joke in the newest trailer. So I'm pretty sure a mention of a spider person, someone will be in Deadpool Wolverine, because that's
interesting because Tom Holland is notorious for not being able to keep a secret.
So I think it's Andrew Garfield.
What's that?
It's Andrew Garfield, clearly, because that would be a great parent. You see what I'm saying? You get it? Multiverse. It's gonna.
Oh, okay.
We're moving too far now, because now we're going to theories. We didn't even get into this Deadpool, but I think him being the first R-rated superhero since Blade to hit that bank and make that bank, it was just something really special. So it made an impact for me. Yeah.
Well, speaking of Blade, we are also going to talk about Blade. And the reason why we're talking about Blade and Deadpool is because we wanted, since I made my selections before you came on board for the year, I wanted it to have one that you hadn't seen. You hadn't seen Blade. I hadn't seen Blade. So it was kind of a double header blind spot for both of us. And so, that was interesting to see, and we'll talk about it.
Are you a fan of Rachel's reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a Patreon. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night or even become a guest on the podcast. Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/hallmarkies.
But yeah, so Deadpool, this came out in 2016. This was in the Fox universe of films, so the X-Men universe. And this was directed by Tim Miller, writers Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick. A wisecracking mercenary gets experimented on and becomes immortal, yet hideously scarred, and sets out to track down the man who ruined his looks. So I always try to kind of judge films. Do they succeed in being what it's trying to be? That's a lot of times the question that I ask.
Yeah.
Because, like when I'm looking at a Hallmark Christmas movie, it's not the same as when I'm watching the latest Oscar bait release. When I'm looking at an A24 artsy horror movie, it's not the same perspective as when I'm watching a Barbie movie. Like you have different. And so you ask the question, did it succeed in being what it's trying to be? And I think with Deadpool, it does succeed in what it's trying to be, in being sarcastic and being like, in the end, is it really my thing? Would I ever watch it again? No. But I do think for what it is, I think it's successful.
I love that you said that, because I do think that there is a sense of like guidelines with certain films. And I think that people tend to forget that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're watching a disaster movie like Twisters, for example, like you're not expecting anything more than what it is, exactly what you just said. So I think that people have a higher standard now for certain films. And I don't know why they do, because if I'm watching a rom-com, I'm not expecting to have like an action movie or vice versa, or like get that sense of, something Oscar worthy, whatever they want to call it. Like not every movie is set up to win an award. And I think that people tend to forget that. So
and that's Deadpool, not like excusing something. Obviously, I say lots of movies are failures, but I do think that context is real. It's not saying, well, this thing doesn't even have to try, because it still has to be good at what it's trying to be.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I think with Deadpool, as I said, like in Wolverine Origins, he has a completely different look. Like his mouth is sewn shut. True. And Wade Wilson just doesn't shut up. So I don't know why they even like sewed his mouth shut in that movie. So it's the fact that like it's weird. Right. And it's a disservice to the character that we all know and love. So I think that by the time this was in development, Deadpool was exactly what we expected, what we wanted. He is totally out there and sarcastic, and he's just, no one knows how to handle him at that point. And I just think it's very comic book accurate. And for me, with comic book films, because I've watched millions of them, I think that even if it's as bad as a Sony Marvel film, as long as they accurately depict the character, their power set, and try to establish the world and universe that this character is in, no comic book film is actually that bad. Like I can commend them for trying. And I may have preferences, obviously, but it's the fact that like you can't inherently say it's bad if they kind of do nail those aspects for me. So I'll still find it enjoyable in that case, because they did, again, try, as we've been saying. So it is what it is with Sony Marvel films and stuff like that, right?
I think I am more demanding, because I do think that, they can take inspiration from the comic books, but it still has to be a consistent, engaging well thought out story
Mhm.
with character arcs that grip me and make sense. Like something like the Marvels, which for me was a complete mess,
Mhm.
that stories all over the place, nothing made sense, nothing fit.
Yeah,
So even if people were to say, well, that's accurate to the comics, I would say I could care less if it doesn't. I mean, because it's a different medium,
it's true.
it's a different medium. We'll talk about that when we talk about Blade as well. But yeah, I mean, it is very strange when we talk about the, X-Men Origins Wolverine, why they would decide to make the Merc with a mouth. That's his name. I mean, that's even in the comics, right?
Yeah, it is. It is.
It
And
was
they
so
even
bizarre.
says he talks 24/7. He doesn't shut up. Like even like villains that he fights against, like they just tell him to shut up constantly. And it's like, why is he? I
Hmm.
didn't make any sense. The whole look was wrong. He makes fun
Yeah.
of it in Deadpool, which is hilarious to me. He makes fun
Yeah,
of
that
Green
was
Lantern
funny.
in Deadpool too. I don't know how the hell he did that, but he did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think that because Ryan Reynolds took good care of him, that's how we even got this movie to begin with.
Uh-huh.
Like, and it was just, for me, it's just a different character entirely. And I think that you needed to have someone care about it. And that goes with all comic book heroes,
Hmm.
because you can tell it with the level of consistency in Marvel, which writer actually cares about the source material and the movie's actually good. And then the
Yeah.
people who don't care about the source material, that's when it's like it friggin' falls apart and it's
Mhm.
terrible.
Mhm. Well, I do think there are times in this movie where it feels a little try hard to me, where it's like, okay, we get it. We get what you're trying to do. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's sometimes when I'm just like, okay, like things like the credits, for instance, the hot chick or British villain. I don't stuff like that. That it sometimes it feels a little like, okay, you're gilding the lily here at this point. Like we get it, what you're trying to do, and it just can be a little much, I think, sometimes.
It is over the top.
Yeah.
I love this movie so much, but I can tell like I can totally understand the bits and pieces that people like don't like. I get it 100%.
Hmm.
But there are times where I'm like, Wade's being a bit too overly right now. Like, let's hone it back because there are really strong emotional moments that ground him as a character as well with Vanessa that
Hmm.
I personally really enjoyed. Um, but I can see how you would feel that.
Yeah. Well, so it starts out, he says that we get this introduction where, yeah, he says that it's a douchebags film. And I apologize if there's going to be I'll try to keep the language as clean as possible, but it's an
Hard.
hard R film.
It's very hard.
A British villain, the comic relief, a moody teen, a CGI character, gratuitous cameo, produced by A-Hats, written by the real heroes here, and directed by an overpaid tool. So that was our introduction.
It still gets me. I'm sorry. I still get I love those
And then
credits.
evidently he had to Wolverine is the only reason he got his own movie. So were him and Hugh Jackman already kind of back and forth this
Oh
dynamic?
yeah. Oh,
Yeah, in
that's been for
2016.
years, for
Okay.
years. Like ever since they worked on Origins together, and we always kind of knew that like they had a special bond, and then they would make fun of each other constantly. But it's like been 10 years in the making for sure.
So they say that if he will join the X-Men, he says, "No, I won't join the X-Men." And then he says, "Some of the best love stories start with a murder, and that's what this is, a love story," which is very sweet.
Yes.
Yeah.
I Well, it came out on Valentine's Day. It was either
Mm-hmm.
you watched that or I forgot what else was like countering
Mm-hmm.
Deadpool. But as a personal tradition, I do watch it on February like 13th
Mm-hmm.
going into like Valentine's Day because now it's tradition for me. And I do think that the love story between the two of them is what adds a different layer to this comic book film because it can just be comic book film. He can be shooting people, but if there's no emotional connection to the characters, then there's no point in watching it. For me, you're
Mm-hmm.
not rooting for anyone. And I know that you're, a big advocate for that too, that you want to root for someone, you want the characters to be likable. And hopefully that's what
Mm-hmm.
this did for you with Deadpool and
Well, I mean,
Vanessa.
it
So
did, but this whole scene with the pizza, and I was like, man,
yeah.
he's terrorizing these people. I said, I really don't like this scene with the pizza. Like it wasn't funny, and so it was just kind of uncomfortable. And so I was like, ooh, hey, boy. But then I did like the scene with him and Vanessa one-upping their horrible childhood. That was funny.
It
And
was
it reminded me, have you ever seen an old Monty Python skit called The Four Yorkshiremen?
I haven't.
It's really funny. It's these four guys and they're sitting around talking and they start out, I lived in a one-room shack, and the next person, I lived in a hole in the ground, and it gets worse and worse and worse and worse until like we lived in a lake, and it's
oh my God, I gotta check that out for sure. That's really probably where he pulled it from, knowing Ryan. Like that's probably where they pulled it from.
Yeah, and that kind of reminded me of that. we lived in a one-room shack and we got beaten every day, it just gets worse and worse. It's really funny.
I love that.
Work 12 hours at the mill, come home.
That's cute.
You try to tell kids today that. It's really funny. But it kind of reminded me of that. And we find out that Wade loves skee ball.
He does. One and the same. I love skee ball too.
I do too.
I love skee ball. I suck at it, but I love skee ball.
Yeah.
I still play.
Getting the ball in the holes. Which was funny. Your crazy matches my crazy. That was cute.
It's cute.
Yeah.
It's so cute. I love that.
Yeah. Life is a series of train wrecks with only periodic breaks of happiness.
It's one of my favorite lines from that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And just in context to what happens before and after that, it was really good.
So he has cancer, and they confront him and say, hey, we can make you into a superhero. And that's when we meet Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead. What did you think of them?
I liked both of them a lot. I think Colossus had many comedic moments just because he was so straight-faced and he wanted to care, obviously, for Logan. Oh my God, for Wade Wilson. And then Negasonic was okay. I wasn't like completely sold on her character. Like we didn't get enough of her either, but I like the moody teenage aspect counter Wade as well. So I preferred Colossus to Negasonic for sure.
Much better than in Deadpool 2. Ooh. The side characters were terrible in that, I thought. And that the kid from Wilder People.
I know. Personally, I think Deadpool 2 is like such a downgrade to what we got in the first one. I refuse to watch it. Like I watched Deadpool on repeat. I could, but Deadpool 2, the second time I watched it was literally last week because I wanted a refresher, but it was so long ago that I could not deal with that movie. So bad.
This movie is really violent. He cuts, in fact, both the movies we're talking about, there are a lot of hand cutting off. Going on in both movies.
But he regenerates. So
watch your hands.
His baby hand. It's okay. He regenerates. It's fine. It's all good.
He gets the treatment and then he basically gets tortured by these people. Yeah. And he lights his room on fire, and that's what makes him, burn his face. And I think because Vanessa never really does reject him, he just thinks that she would reject him. But they really didn't make him that. It's not like he is fake. I don't know. Like he really just didn't look that bad. He's still Ryan Reynolds.
He's still Ryan Reynolds. He's still a handsome guy. I mean, that wouldn't stop me. I'm just gonna be straight. Sorry, Blake Lively, but it's the truth. No, it wasn't that bad. But the jokes, oh my God, the jokes about an avocado, and I'm not gonna get into that joke, but the avocado joke, was just hilarious. But the jokes about him being was quite interesting.
It kind of reminds me of you've seen Penelope, movie Penelope? Yeah. It's just beautiful. Nobody's going to care about her nose.
I know. I was like, what are you doing? I don't get it. His body stayed the same. I don't.
Yeah. But he's just really insecure, which is interesting because he puts on this real confident front.
Yeah, I think
you
that's
know.
why I love him so much, because he also uses humor and sarcasm as a crutch.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just a very sensitive person. So because of everything that's happened to him in the past. So I think that, we don't get enough of a backstory on Wade, but what we
Mm-hmm.
get is enough to kind of feel for him in that moment.
Yeah. They say you should star in your own horror films because you look like Freddy Krueger after a topographical map of Utah.
It's gold. It's gold. I'm pretty sure they're like, here, ad lib everything, see what sticks. And it's like, that was one of them, which was gold. And
But that was
loved it.
funny. They picked Utah.
You're like, it was the most random, like who randomly to put into a script and it works. So that's awesome.
Yeah. So then we meet Blind Al that he ends up living with, and that's
Yeah,
Leslie Uggams is the actress's
yeah.
name. And she was fun. I enjoyed her.
She was cute. Like I just love the sassiness from her too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's good. And he like is kind of around Vanessa. He's there, it's just kind of watching her, and then she gets abducted.
Yeah.
And we also have this whole thing with this taxi driver thing going on.
King. He is a king. We love him. Best part. I swear, they're so cute together with the
Because
Hello Kitty
Deadpool tells him to take out his rival and to be, confident. And then that's exactly what he does. He's like, oh, I didn't mean you to literally.
He's like, wow, but good for you, man. Like, he's in the trunk. I was like, oh God.
Yeah.
That's such a good moment.
Uh, and I did think it was funny. The use of music throughout was very effective. They spent a lot of money on
soundtrack's killer.
On the soundtrack, and the inspiration. That was funny. That was probably really the best laugh of the movie.
Yes, I agree. I think even like the whole like boombox scene at the end really got me too with Vanessa, because he obviously plays Wham. Like it's such a good moment.
Mm-hmm. But I just think that sort of delivered everything that you want in this movie in that sequence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he says 4 or 5 moments is all it takes to be a hero.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
It's very true, with a superhero landing as well, and the slow clap of a superhero.
It's true how like just one thing can really change your view of a person, both positive or negative.
Oh, absolutely.
Like it doesn't take much.
No, it doesn't take much. And I think even for you from the beginning of like the movie where you had that really violent scene with the pizza and you're like, oh my God, like I'm not gonna like Wade. And then hopefully, later on, which you did, you kind of connected with him afterwards. So it takes one line, one moment, and it's the truth for him. And everyone kind of calls him an anti-hero, which he is, but to get his own movie, it's like it's massive just to see what else he can do.
Yeah. So then he has Hugh Jackman's face. Right? Like literally an image of Hugh Jackman's face on him.
I love it.
That was funny.
It was cute. I love that he did that.
Yeah, so I'm glad that they finally got to make their movie together. I just, hopefully it'll be good.
Fingers crossed. I've been waiting for years for this one too. Mm-hmm. So
I'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's Elise Murray and her exciting book, Society Girl. Set in the mysterious world of Oxford University's secret societies, Society Girl follows Sam, a duke's estranged daughter, as she attempts to join the most famous club of them all, the Animos Society. Her final initiation challenge is simple: find a man, convince him she's in love with him, and then break his heart in humiliating fashion. Hardened by her father's rejections, believing that the Animos Society is her key to his love and acceptance, Sam throws herself into making Dano Best, her father's chauffeur and local musician, fall for her. But she never counted on falling in love with him right back. Fans of Colleen Hoover, Anna Hong, and Mia Sheridan will love Society Girl, a sweeping romance from bestselling novelist and screenwriter Elise Murray. Free for Kindle Unlimited users for a limited time. Go to elisemurray.com/novels/Society Girl for more information. Or you can use the affiliate link below. And that I was kind of turned off from even like watching this movie at all was the marketing campaign at the time was overwhelming. I mean, it was all over everywhere. Just like, I don't know, you couldn't sneeze on social media without getting that. And
he was there. Like,
yeah,
every turn, he was there.
It was overwhelming. For those of us not in it, it was a lot.
Yeah, it was. That whole year was a lot. I remember 2016. There was like 6 superhero films that came out, and Deadpool kicked it off. But I just loved, he did I think it was like the Burt Reynolds, like he laid across the rug, and like he did the romantic aspect of that. But I think
it was
lot. It was a lot. It, like literally every turn, they did like a baby making playlist on Spotify at the time, which I still have saved. Like I have that, and they had so many things. They had like I know
they even had a Hallmark Christmas spot that they did, making fun of Hallmark Christmas movies.
They hit every single thing because he wanted it to make a universal like film, and he tapped into that with the romance, I guess. But that's why it was everywhere. Like I love that marketing. It's just so fun. No, man, it was too much.
It was a lot.
I just wanted to watch my screen in peace. I didn't want Deadpool in my face. Like,
well, so I asked on Twitter. Well, I just posted. I was like, and then he ends the movie by saying the right girl will bring out the hero of you. So that was cute.
It's a cute movie. I'm just happy you thought it was cute. That's all I need. And you laughed a little bit. I'm just very happy. It makes me very happy.
Yeah. All right. And so I just posted on Twitter. I was like, I'm watching it finally, think of the original Deadpool and Blade movies. And let me read just some of the Deadpool ones. So Nostalgia Cast, Darren, he says, Deadpool does, but only because it takes the same origin story as every superhero origin story and rearranges it in flashback form with potty language and meta comedy. I mean, that is true.
Very accurate.
Yeah, he does. It's true. Yeah. And let's see here. I like both. Kevin, the critic, says, I like both Deadpool films. And he says 2 out of 3 of the Blade entries. Story-wise, I think the series... but series' strongest outings are their originals for both of them. Keith Garling says, I didn't like Deadpool and still don't.
Sad face, my guy.
Marco Impero says, first 2 Blade and Deadpool movies are really good and hold up very well. Wasn't a fan of Blade Trinity. Judging by the advertising, Deadpool 3 looks on par with its predecessors. Definitely looking forward to it. And then Kevin Bauer says, I've always thought Deadpool was overhyped, insanely formulaic with regressive and traditional gender roles and an over-reliance on swearing when a PG-13 rating would have been more character appropriate and forced more creative joke writing. I mean, I can kind of see a little bit what he's saying. I mean, obviously, Once Upon a Deadpool showed that that's not the case, but I do think that sometimes that try-hardishness that sometimes they would have. I think that if they had to work a little harder for some of these jokes, then I think there is some truth to what he's saying there. It's just as far as like some of them were pretty easy and just kind of felt a little bit like a pile-on after a while. And so I can actually understand. I don't really agree about the traditional gender roles because I
disagree with that too.
Yeah, because Vanessa, she's not like a housefrau. I mean, she has her own goals, her own life. She doesn't just like get completely ruined by him. She continues on with her life when he's gone.
She does. They match each other. Like, I think they're equals in this movie, to be perfectly honest. Like, I never thought that she was just lesser than or like traditional at all in this movie. I thought she was so different and a breath of fresh air while
Yeah,
watching
because
this.
you also have the Negasonic teenager as well, who's a
Yeah.
woman. So,
And what's her name? The
and the
villain.
blind,
Yeah, I know. You have so
blind
many
lady.
different female characters that you're like,
Yeah.
whoa, it doesn't make sense.
So I don't think it's, I mean, unless you think that a male female coupling love, if you think that is traditional gender roles, then you're wrong. That's not like traditional love. And that's something that drives me crazy in especially like modern Disney. They think you cannot have your character fall in love or it
Yeah.
weakens the character. The character's not as strong a woman if they're in love, which is ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
understand where they get this notion from. I don't get it. But also, like, you're getting a superhero to put love front and center in this, which is completely
Well, it's
different
just a
than,
false understanding of female empowerment that
yeah.
female empowerment has to be solo, that it can't be you can't have a partner, that you
Mhm.
can't need somebody in your life, that your love makes you stronger, not weaker.
I know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I swear to you. I'm at, like, I agree with you 100%. I just don't know where all these
Yeah.
movies are coming from that they're changing it entirely. It's like, no, we
Hmm.
love love. Make us
Yeah.
love with somebody else. What's wrong with you? Like,
Yeah.
let us all be soft and emotional. We're allowed to be
Yeah.
like that sometimes, you know,
I
and still
mean,
be strong.
that's what made the first Wonder Woman movie a good movie, in my opinion, at least, was that
I
she was
agree.
kissing babies and eating ice cream and
Yeah.
dancing and all of that, as well as going onto ground, what do they call it? Not ground zero,
No
but
man's land.
no man's
No man's
land.
land. Yeah.
And
And kicking
she
butt.
did it all. And that
She
made her a
did.
compelling character to me, at least.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
I still cry watching that scene.
Hmm.
Like Nomad's Land like moved me to tears. Like I was
Hmm.
crying. I was like, "Oh my God, it's so
And I
awesome."
cry when she says, "Well, who would play for us?" When they're dancing and the and I mean, just
I
that is just
know.
such a sweet, lovely scene. So yeah, I think it's a misunderstanding of women and what women want, uh
Hmm.
it's just such a false kind of understanding of relationships and what makes us strong.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So I disagree with him there, but I do think there are times when the joke writing could be a little more creative. But yeah, it's not a subtle movie. This is not a it's not
No, it's in your face. But that comes with the character. And I think in regards to the jokes, there's so many of them that they put in there that
yeah.
it's like that's just him, and half of them were probably ad-libbed at the exact same time, you know what I mean? Like they
Yeah.
had to see, they had, maybe had to cut jokes.
Yeah.
I do think that it did need the R rating. This would have been a completely different movie if it was PG-13, especially with the violence. I'm going to
Hmm.
be honest with you. Like, you can't do a PG-13 and then let Deadpool be Deadpool. You can't do it. And that's why, like, he hasn't even been in like other projects
Yeah.
yet.
I mean,
Because
that's
they
why
do have
Once
to
Upon a
polish that.
Deadpool didn't work. I mean, not only because Deadpool 2 is not good, but
Yeah,
because it just doesn't work with the character.
no, it
No.
doesn't. So that's,
And
yeah,
so, yeah, I mean, I do think that it sometimes it does feel a little try hard at times, but and I mean they do take a formula, but I don't have a problem with that.
absolutely not.
I think sometimes formulas can be I think sometimes formula filmmaking gets a bad rap. I think
I
it's
agree.
comforting to watch something where you okay, like formulas exist because they work, because
Absolutely.
they they have a proven track record, right? And so then it's about what do you do within that formula? And in this case, they tried to do something original as far as the characters and the I mean, really the R-ratedness was kind of that was its big new idea, you
Yeah.
know. What is it? It
Yeah.
doesn't have much if it doesn't have if it doesn't have
It's
that.
true though. It's true. And I think that when it comes to like genre conventions, people have to understand that it comes down to the characters and the story. If it's
Yeah.
like strong enough, the chemistry, especially like with rom-coms, it comes down
Yeah.
to chemistry. You know that the girl's gonna get the guy. There's a gimmick, but like, you know what I mean. Even with horror, it's the exact same thing. You kind of know how things are gonna play out. But again, like you said, it's so comforting. So this idea that a formula is bad, but meanwhile, all these genres are made up of the exact same conventions that we've had since like the dawn of cinema. It just doesn't make any sense, and nothing is technically original anymore. And I'm speaking from the fact that like I just saw Longlegs and people are saying, oh, it's like Silence of the Lambs, it's like Seven. I'm like, yeah, those are movies that are going to exist and people are going to pull from. It's not going to be an issue. It shouldn't be an issue.
And a lot of times the movies that are the most quote unquote original are the ones people hate the most. You know, I mean, where were people standing up for Jupiter Ascending, for example?
Yeah.
That was pretty original. It was a whole new idea, a whole new world, people talking weird, like beat people.
They complain and don't show up. They complain and they don't show up. And I'm like, you guys are interesting, the general audience. I don't get it. What do you want?
It's all about
Ryan Gosling now.
I would actually argue that we need more formula films. I think we need more genre pictures. And it's just about, do you execute it well? Do you have likable characters? Do you have engaging dialogue? Is the banter good? And I would say that in this movie, that those elements are pretty fun. Like, I mean, and again, it's just not really my kind of thing. You know, it's just a little, I don't know. It's just not something I would probably never watch again. But I do think that it's done well. The banter's, for what it's trying to be, I think it does it well. Yeah.
Yay. Yeah. I agree. I'm just happy. I'm beaming. I'm like, this is all I wanted. I was so nervous. I'm like, I hope she like it's enjoyable at least. And it was for you. So I'm happy. I'm happy.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
Well, let's talk about Blade. So this is from 1998. This is directed by Stephen Norrington, writer David S. Goyer, who would go on to do tons of stuff. He's very famous for The Dark Knight to begin with, amongst many other things. And this stars Wesley Snipes, Stephen Dorff, and Chris Christopherson. And it's a half vampire, half mortal man becomes a protector of the mortal race while slaying evil vampires. So you had never seen this, correct?
I've never seen it. I stayed away from it because people had said that it was bad. And whenever someone says, but it's a cult classic, I'm like, you can't fool me. I know what that means when you say it's a cult classic. Okay. So I tried to avoid it, but I the second I heard Mahershala Ali was playing Blade, I'm like, I have to watch the original at some point.
Right.
But this was not it for me. No. I love the character. I think the character's cool in the comics. I think the story's really good, but it's just the execution here for a late 90s movie was really rough. Like, it's not even like Daredevil bad, like Ben Affleck Daredevil bad. Like, this was just, it was rough.
You definitely felt every inch of this 2 hours, and you felt every minute of the 2 hours. You really did. And it really felt like a 90s superhero movie. Like, we complain now about bad superhero movies, and we certainly have gotten some, like Madam Web, but it was just a different thing back then because almost all of them were like Madam Web. That's the thing. They were all like that. And so the whole genre, I mean, had this reputation That I mean, that's why when the first Spider-Man movie came out, it was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, because it was so much better.
It's true. And I do think that like even like the Fantastic Four film that came out, I still think that it holds up today. Like I really do love that first one. I know people like
you mean the Roger
sorry.
Corman one or the Tim Story one? The one with Chris Evans?
Yes, that one.
Okay. Because there was
that
one
one's like manageable.
There's a Fantastic Four movie made in the 90s that was made by director Roger Corman. That was literally just made to keep the rights. I don't think it was ever even released. And it's kind of I've never seen it actually, but it's pretty it's kind of got a bit of a cult following, and it was
cult
cool.
Classic.
Yeah, I interviewed Rebecca Staub she does a bunch of Hallmark stuff. And she was Sue Storm in the Corman Fantastic Four, and it was so fascinating to talk to her about it and her experience making it. It was really interesting because that was in '94, but we had that epic, terrible '90s Captain America movie. We had the Schumacher Batman movies.
Hey! They weren't that bad. Like Batman Forever, I will like fight for it, but like Batman and Robin, we don't talk about. But Batman Forever, I'm good with. Everything else, no.
Yeah, there were a lot of really rough films in the superhero movies in there.
Yeah,
but yeah, this one especially once it gets. I wrote down. I just started to stop taking notes after a while. And I just wrote that lots of serum and ritual mumbo jumbo. Like once it gets into the like lair that they're in with Frost, and there's sort of just this continual kind of back and forth, and his mom shows up, and all this stuff. Like pretty much the last hour of this movie is brutal.
I think my main issue with Blade, because I checked out at that part. I was like, I don't understand what the hell's happening.
Yeah.
For me, it's the fact that you are telling us everything about Blade. You are telling us his backstory. Yeah. You're over-explaining his powers. I saw nothing. Yeah. And even though the action was actually pretty decent for a late 90s superhero film, I still have no idea who Blade is as a character. I have no clue.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, it's just an exposition dump constantly. And it sucks because you needed more than that.
Also, like even within a fantasy superhero thing, there has to be like a tiny bit of grounding and realism. And when you have a character literally be cut in half, right? He's literally cut in half. The body goes above the face, and then there's like this CGI merging going on. Because and I get it, like Star Wars tried to do that with what's his name? But it's like, I don't know. At least we didn't see that with Maul in Star Wars. It was just sort of after, like, oh, you survived being cut in half. Oh, okay. It's ridiculous. Sure. And it's just, yeah, I mean, I think it starts, that scene in the rave, that was very
so good.
Very good. 1998.
Best part of the movie.
Yeah. But it was good. I mean, with like the blood spraying everywhere and they're vampires and Blade showing up, and like it's a pretty good introduction to the character.
And then it just
and then he rescues the doctor, and she was so bland. I really just got nothing from her.
Could not.
There was no like, I didn't feel any emotion for her. Like if you're going to talk about gender roles,
right? Exactly. She was just there so we could. The thing that bothered me about her is that she was literally just there to listen to the other dude explain who Blade was, or else if she wasn't in it, who was that guy going to talk to? We were going to find out zilch, like absolutely nothing about this character. And that's what was so frustrating. Because even for Wesley Snipes, he was fine. Like, he was good.
He was good.
But he
But like
also had no dialogue either.
but
It was
these
very little.
vampires, they have this like council, and he's like,
The
the nightclubs are
Volturi.
dangerous. They draw too much attention to our kind. And it's just like these are the lamest vampires I've ever seen. I mean, I don't know. Twilight was pretty lame sometimes, but I mean, what are they doing? Like having council meetings and like there was no sense of like real fear and like I don't know. It just
There were
all
no
felt
stakes.
it just all felt so cheesy.
So cheesy.
Yeah.
Worst, like they are the worst vampires that I've seen. Like terrible. They're like if we're talking about council members, like the Volturi really just
Yeah, they
knock it
were
out of the park
bad.
at this point. Like it's
Bad.
fine.
It was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. And Chris Christopherson, he was, I think, trying to kind of have some fun in this role. Crosses don't work, but silver and garlic do, and these vampires are everywhere. They own the police. And I don't know, like he had a little bit of personality, I thought, to his role.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God, because Wesley Snipes didn't. And Wesley Snipes, the thing that bothered me is that he has so much personality if you watch him in anything else. That you watch him in Blade, it's like, well, where to go? Like, why is this character?
It is
I
pretty
understand
flat.
that it's so flat. And I'm like, I think you could have done something more with it. And the entire time I was watching this Blade, I'm like, where is Mahershala Ali's Blade? Like, I need him to like fix everything that came before. No offense to Wesley Snipes. I'm
And
very
pretty
sorry.
much everyone
But
has said that the Blade 2 is better, which makes sense, directed by Guillermo del Toro.
oh,
Yeah,
I
so
was
I would think.
I was gonna stop after this. But now that you said it's Papa Guillermo del Toro, now I have to watch too.
Yeah, it's an early. I think it's one of his first films they ever did.
Damn, I didn't know.
But yeah, and there's this whole scene where he basically uses the doctor as bait to get this officer guy, who's not really a vampire, but just kind of like as a wannabe vampire. And you know what movie is way better than this? Very similar is The Lost Boys. Have you ever seen The Lost Boys?
Yes,
Way
so
better.
good.
Very similar
So
story.
good. Yeah,
You've got these groups of vampires, and you've got like, I mean, it's very similar. Much better.
Really good though, that movie.
Yeah,
much better. Watch that instead. Don't watch Blade. Watch that instead. We should have watched that instead. Clearly.
Yeah, and then there's this whole scene with this obese vampire.
That was weird.
That was gross.
That was kind of weird. And like,
yeah.
Like, why is it
and then there's this big ritual where they have to use 12 pureblood vampires to awaken the blood god. And the blood god Lamagra. And that's what allows him to get cut in half and be I mean, geez. That Blade's blood, since he is half and half, he is key to getting this. And I think that it would have maybe worked better if there had been a sense of vulnerability on the part of Blade, because you never really get a feeling that he's threatened. People, the doctor, other people are, but even compared to, even though Deadpool and Blade are both immortal characters, there is at least more of a feeling of, with the cancer and with some of there's like a little bit more of a feeling with Wade that he could be vulnerable. I don't know.
Absolutely.
A little more.
No, I felt absolutely nothing for Blade. I felt nothing.
Yeah.
Like he could have died and been like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like that's not what you want for a hero, So it's unfortunate.
And the, like I said, this whole long section with the ritual and the serum, and he ends up taking too much of the serum, and then it stops being effective. I said I just wrote down serum and ritual mumbo jumbo.
I mean, accurate. It was very repetitive after a while.
Yeah.
And I do think that the direction was very messy. I think the editing was really bad too. I
it all felt
understand that
very
he's a vampire.
90s.
all very 90s. And I think that like he tried to, kind of give you the atmosphere of like you're in the vampire's mind. So like the supersonic hearing, he can kind of foresee things. I'm like, so many other films did it better that I was just sitting there like, oh, this is so bad. Like it's bad. It's just executed poorly. So it sucks.
Yeah, and then I wrote down Frost gets La Megra, which evidently means he can be chopped in half.
So he can do it now. Hey, that's what we're waiting for. That's what we all wanted in the end of this movie, clearly.
So Blade ends up injecting him with like 8 different syringes with this serum. And that's finally it takes him out. He blows up. He can't be healed, even with the power of La Megra. That's the antidote, I guess. And it's too bad because the actress who plays his mom, Sana Lathan, she's so good. There's a great little rom-com she did called Something New that I love. And she was in Love and Basketball, of course, too. She's a good actress. And she gets in these stinkers and you're just like, oh.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah.
Like, I know you're good. Why are you in this thing?
It's so unfair.
Get a new agent. What is this?
Yeah. But anyway, so she's his mom. And that's something that should be like emotional, him seeing his mom, but you never feel it.
It happened in 2 seconds. I heard that it was his mom, and then they went to another scene. I was like, "What? Why are you kidding? This is the whole. What are you talking about? She's here right in front of him."
Undo him. When he sees his mom.
I don't care about the ritual at that point. Let me stay with the mother and her son. I don't understand why the ritual took up the rest of the movie. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. So I thought this was pretty bad. There's some people who say the third one is the worst of the series, which
I heard that too.
And that's the one with Ryan Reynolds in it. Yeah.
My poor bean.
That's the thing with Ryan Reynolds is that he did get a lot of chances. Like, Wolverine obviously was a small role, but he was in that. He was in Blade Trinity. He was in Green Lantern. He was in he's a lot of bad movies.
Okay, full thing here. I actually liked him in Green Lantern. I really liked him as Hal. I hate the movie, but he was a really good Hal Jordan. And I went to bat for that movie when it came out, but I know it's so bad. Like, it's so bad. But I love Ryan so much. And that's where he met Blake Lively. So, like, they're one of my favorite couples ever. So it's fun.
Yeah, that was
meant
good.
To find her. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just saying, he did get a lot of chances.
He did.
And then he finally got it right, I guess.
Thank God. It's okay. It's because he's funny. He's funny and he's great and he's a great human being.
He was in R.I.P.D. too. That's another comic book movie that was terrible.
It was. He kept trying. You know what? Kudos to him. Good job, Ryan. If you ever watch this, you did it, buddy. You made it big with Deadpool. But truthfully, though, no one else could play Wade Wilson like him.
Yeah.
Like, I can't picture anybody else ever playing Deadpool. So thank God for that. Like, he made it his own. It's kind of like a Robert Downey Jr. type situation. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Well, there we go. So I did ask. So what the Twitter says about Blade. MC Myers says Blade 1, no. The opening is rad, but the screenplay direction is awful. Blade 2 is actually pretty good, though. I've never been surprised that the director of Blade 2 went on to make Pan's Labyrinth, and the director of Blade 1 went on to make League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yep.
There you go. And Nostalgic Cast Darren says Blade has a terrific opening, but then devolves into 90s comic book movie nonsense that I couldn't care less about. Yeah, I agree. Yep. Accurate. Peter Saunders says Blade was great, but Blade 2 was even better. So there's that.
I gotta watch Blade 2 now.
Yeah. And then Kevin the Critic says that 2 out of the 3 Blade entries are I liked. Stories, I think the series' strongest outings are their originals. Keith Garling says, I like Blade and still do. And then Marco says first two Blade and Deadpool movies are really good and hold up very well. Wasn't a fan of Blade Trinity. That's the third one. And then let's see here. There we go. That's all. So yeah, that's the thoughts on Blade. So put in the comment section what you think. If you love it, we want to hear what you think about Deadpool. And if you are, how excited you are for this new movie.
Very excited.
Yes. People are like, oh, are you dreading it? I'm like, yes, I dread all superhero movies. I do. They're so miserable to cover as a critic because you can't win. If you like it, then you're a shill, and you know you're. And if you don't like it, then you're a hater and you deserve to die. And you know, it's just like you cannot win with those intense fandoms. It's impossible. And so most of the time, luckily, I write my own content. And so with super movies, I usually just wait. I wait a while until things have cooled down, and then I post my review.
Oh no, I dive right in. I'm just like, you want to know what I think? Boom. And
I'll put my Twitter or whatever, but as far as like my main review, often I will wait until there's like 100+ reviews on Rotten Tomatoes logged, because it's just so unpleasant, and it's my own content. I can do whatever I want, you know.
Absolutely.
You know, it's one thing if you're writing for a site, you need to, you know, get it up there, but like Birds of Prey, for instance, that one's, I waited a long time with that one because I just, even though I did enjoy it, I just didn't want to deal with it, you know.
That's fair. I mean, I think I learned my lesson after Eternals. That was a big one for me where I learned my lesson. So now for certain films, if I know it's going to be kind of polarizing, I just drop my review and leave. I don't talk about it anymore. I'm like, this is what I think on this day. I'm never talking about it again, and I'm gonna peace out. And that's
and I almost always turn off my comments for any movie like that that's going to be controversial, because it really doesn't help me that much as far as like getting views and stuff. So it's just a hassle, and you know, I don't need to. There's no, again, this is my site. I can do it however I want. This is not a free country. Yeah. Rachel's Reviews is not a free country.
That's the benefit right there.
There's no free speech. It's whatever I want to deal with.
It's my word or nothing.
I love people that disagree with me, and I love having conversations with people. But what I don't love is people that just continuously post the same comments over and over again about stupid Trolls movie. Or that just continually like that make things personal, or just unpleasant, mean-spirited, unkind. I don't have time for that. And again, it's my site. I can do it however I want.
Absolutely.
You know,
100%. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Trust me. I've had my fair share. I get it. Trust me. People are
brutal.
Like, they're too much out there. They're too much. I can't feel.
So anyway, that's what we thought of Deadpool and Blade, and I will be writing up my blind spot review like I always do. It might be a bit because we're doing this kind of early in the month to get it before the new movie. But anyway, I'll have that up and I'll put that in the description when I do it. And Manda, thanks so much for doing this. This is a lot of fun. I always look forward to it every month now. I really do.
Dude, I'm so happy we made this deal at the beginning of the year. But like, honestly, by doing these blind spots, I found myself trying to watch older films that I may have missed. So thank you for that. You really pushed me to do that this year. Like, I have a whole list on Letterboxd, which I'll show you after when it's done, and I'll show you. But like, you've inspired me to do this, so I love doing this with you, truly.
Well, our next one couldn't be more different, which is really funny. So what we're doing next month is we are watching Far from the Madding Crowd from 1967, but I think we should watch both 2015 and 1967.
That's right. We were saying that
because I love the 2015 film, but I've never seen 1967. And so that's going to be interesting to see, you know, which one I end up liking the most. And So yeah, that's what we're going to. We're going from Deadpool to Bathsheba Everdeen in the 1850s.
I love it. This is why we do it, everyone.
Yeah.
This is why we do it. Variety.
Yeah, it's the spice of life, folks. So yeah, that'll be fun. Look forward to it for August. And if people want to follow you, how do they do that?
Yeah, you guys can always follow me over at AMX NDA Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. You can check out my website, candidxcinema.com, and my YouTube, Candid Cinema.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure that if you are listening on iTunes, you leave your ratings and reviews. We really appreciate that. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have the Patreon group, which is the biggest way you can support what we're doing, and have the merch store. We have a bunch of fun designs, and you check that out. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye.